You know, they say moving a house is one of the most stressful things you can possibly do. You've got boxes everywhere, you can never find the tape, and you realize you own way, way too much junk. Now imagine that, but multiply the stress by, I don't know, a million. Imagine your house is this massive industrial ecosystem that builds some of the most advanced flying machines on the planet.
That paints quite a picture.
Hmm.
And you're not just moving like sofas and beds, you're moving entire assembly lines,
Hmm.
sensitive labs, thousands of highly specialized workers. It's less like moving house and more like performing major surgery on a city's industrial anatomy.
That is the perfect image for what we're talking about today. The patient is Montreal, and the operation is, well, surprisingly successful. We're doing a deep dive into Bombardier's massive move from their historic home in Saint-Laurent to a new, super modern hub in Dorval. But as we started digging through the sources, the construction plans, the government contracts, all of it, it became clear really fast that this is not just a real estate story.
No, not at all. The bricks and mortar, that's just the surface. If you look just a little bit deeper, this move signals a huge pivot for the entire Canadian aerospace sector. We're really witnessing a shift toward what they're calling a dual strategy.
Right, and that's the heart of our deep dive today. We're watching this whole region pivot from being known for, you know, luxury private jets to becoming a real heavy hitter in national defense.
Hmm.
It's this wild mix of half-billion-dollar buildings, spy planes, tactical trucks, and even a turf war over who gets to fix stealth fighters.
It's a convergence of urban planning, high-stakes logistics, and, well, global geopolitics, all happening right there on the island of Montreal.
So let's start with the literal nuts and bolts, the concrete. Bombardier is leaving Saint-Laurent. And for anyone who knows Montreal's aviation history, this is a huge deal, that site. That's the old Canadair factory. It's practically sacred ground.
It is historic, absolutely. But, history doesn't optimize the supply chain.
Mm.
For decades, that site was the beating heart of Quebec aviation, but it was really designed for a different time. Bombardier is consolidating everything, the production of their flagship Global and Challenger jets, all under one roof in the Dorval airport zone.
And when the sources say one roof, they are not kidding. I was looking at the numbers here, and they're staggering. We're talking an investment of approximately 534 million Canadian dollars. That's about 400 million US.
Like a massive injection of capital.
And the building itself, 770,000 square feet. That's what, 71,500 square meters? To put that in perspective for you, just imagine a building big enough to hold multiple football fields, all the assembly lines, and 2,500 people all in one place.
But the why is what's really important here. Why spend $500 million just to move a few kilometers down the road?
That was my first thought, too. Is this rent in Dorval really that much better?
It's not about the rent, it's about the flow. In the old Saint-Laurent plant, everything was scattered. You'd have manufacturing in one building, finishing over in another, engineering somewhere else entirely. You're constantly moving parts and people across this sprawling, inefficient campus. The new site is right next to the Montreal Trudeau Airport UL.
So they can literally just roll the finished planes out the door and onto the runway.
Essentially, yes. It completely integrates the supply chain. You cut transport costs, you slash delivery times, and you optimize the whole assembly line because it's all in one spot. It's like the difference between cooking in a kitchen where the fridge is in the basement and the stove is upstairs versus, a modern chef's kitchen where everything is right there.
There's a sustainability angle here, too, that I thought was interesting. Usually when you talk about these massive industrial plants, green is not the first word that comes to mind. But this new place is aiming for LEE certification.
Which is actually really difficult for this type of heavy industry. The energy demands are enormous, but the sources say they're targeting an energy reduction of nearly 60% compared to the old Saint-Laurent facilities.
60%.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's not just like changing a few light bulbs.
No, it's a fundamental change in how the building itself operates.
Mm-hmm.
The heating, ventilation, the manufacturing processes, and that speaks to the worker experience as well.
Right, because if you're trying to hire the best aerospace engineers on the planet, you can't really stick them in a dark, noisy bunker from the 1960s.
Exactly. The old factories were just functional boxes. This new design is all about natural light, air quality, collaborative spaces. In a tight labor market like this, the building itself is a recruiting tool. You want people to actually want to come to work.
Okay, so Bombardier gets its shiny new home in Dorval, but this is where it gets really interesting for the urban planning nerds listening. What happens to the giant hole they're leaving behind in Saint-Laurent?
And that's the urban ripple effect. When a tenant this big vacates, it frees up millions of square feet of land. Now, you could see that as a disaster, a hollowing out, but the urban planners we read see it as this incredibly rare opportunity.
I loved this phrase the sources used. It's a chance to stitch the urban fabric back together.
It's a great metaphor, isn't it? That old site was kind of fortress. It blocked streets, created this disconnect. Now there's a chance for major requalification. We could see light industrial parks, last-mile logistics centers, which are desperate for space, or even mixed-use developments, if the zoning allows.
So it's a giant blank canvas for the borough, basically.
Precisely. A gigantic urban transformation. And I know there's often a concern about lost tax revenue when a company downsizes its footprint.
Yeah.
Oh no, the city's losing money. But the analysis suggests that even though Bombardier's physical space is shrinking, because they're so much more efficient, the high land value and the tech density of the new Dorval site means the tax revenue is still very significant.
So it's a trade-off. Saint-Laurent gets to reinvent itself, and Dorval gets the high-tech crown jewel.
That's the optimistic take, and the data seems to back it up. But while all this real estate musical chairs is happening, the actual business inside these buildings is also changing.
Which brings us to that dual strategy. I feel like for years when we talked about Montreal aerospace, it was always civil aviation, business jets, commercial planes. But reading these replaints, the whole tone has changed.
It's hardened. The entire ecosystem is pivoting. It's not just about luxury travel anymore. It's about national security. The dual strategy is about serving both the civil and the defense sectors at the same time.
And this isn't just theory, right? There are actual hard numbers here. Let's talk about Bombardier Defense. This was just confirmed in December 2025.
And this connects directly back to that new plant in Dorval. The federal government confirmed it's buying 6 Global 6500 aircraft.
Okay, hold on. The Global 6500, that's a business jet. It has leather seats. It's super quiet. Why is the government buying them? Is this just for flying VIPs around?
Well, yes and no. They are replacing the old Challenger fleet, the CC-144s. So yes, they'll do some VIP transport. But the contract calls them multi-mission jets. We're talking medical evacuation, command and control, and surveillance.
So it's a luxury shell, but inside it's all business.
Serious business. And the price tag shows that about $753 million. And that includes all the training and support.
That is a lot of money. But what I found really interesting was the work breakdown. The sources said the main assembly is in Toronto, but the really complex stuff happens in Montreal.
That's the key distinction. The green aircraft, which is basically the flying shell, is built in Toronto. But then it gets flown to the new Dorval site for what the industry calls missionization.
Missionization. It sounds like something from a sci-fi movie.
It's a great term. It means taking that standard plane and filling it with all the specialized military technology. Secure communications, advanced sensors, medical bays. That's where the really high-value engineering happens. You're not just riveting aluminum, you're integrating classified systems.
So Bombardier is the big anger here. But if we pull the lens back, it feels like everyone in the neighborhood is getting into the defense game. It's not just one company. It's the whole ecosystem shifting.
That's right. We're seeing all of the major players in Greater Montreal remaking the region's defense profile. It's almost a cluster effect. Once you have the talent for one big defense contract, it's easier to land the next one.
Let's run through them because some of these are huge. First up, CAE. Now, they've always been the simulator people, right?
The global leader, yeah. But the contract they just won, the Skyline joint venture, is structural. It's the Future Aircrew Training Program, or FACT.
What does that actually mean?
It means they are responsible for training all Royal Canadian Air Force pilots and aircrew.
All of them. You mean from the brand new rookie to the, seasoned vet?
The entire pipeline for the next 25 years.
Wow. That's what you call job security.
It's enormous. It cements Montreal's status as the world capital of simulation. And it's not just building the physical simulators. They're developing AI-based curricula managed right from their Saint-Laurent headquarters. They're basically running the schoolhouse for the entire Air Force.
Okay, so CAE has the virtual world covered. Let's talk about the ground. Rheinmetall Canada. They're down in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu.
This is a critical one for the Army. It's the Enhanced Recovery Capability Project.
Which sounds very technical, but I saw the pictures in the source material, and these are basically monster tow trucks.
That's a fair way to put it. They're building 85 heavy, tactical 8x8 trucks, recovery vehicles.
So why is that such a big deal? It's just a truck.
Because logistics win wars. When a tank breaks down or gets stuck in the mud in a combat zone, you can't just call a local tow service.
Yeah.
You need a vehicle that can go through the same rough terrain, probably under fire, and pull that asset out. That's what these things do.
And the value on that one.
About $325 million. And the ripple effect is what's interesting. Building 85 of these requires a huge chain of subcontractors, heavy mechanics, electronics experts. It solidifies jobs in Saint-Jean and really feeds that local industrial base.
So we've got pilots in the cloud with CAE, trucks on the ground with Rheinmetall. Now let's go to the helicopters, Bell Textron and Mirabel.
Bell's in a really interesting spot because they're fighting on two different timelines. You have the current fight, which is the GLLE project. That's the Griffin Limited Life Extension.
Just keeping the old helicopter slime, basically.
Exactly. The CH-146 Griffins have been workhorses for a long time, but they're getting old. This project is a massive modernization to keep them going until 2030, maybe beyond. It keeps the lines in Mirabel busy.
But you said a second timeline, the future fight.
I did. The NTES-CS program. Bell is pushing a new aircraft very hard, the V-280 Valor.
Oh, that's the tiltrotor, isn't it? Takes off like a helicopter, flies like a plane.
That's the one. The U.S. is already moving to this technology. Bell is betting that if Canada follows suit and replaces the Griffins with the Valor, then Mirabel is perfectly positioned to become the hub for it. They want to be building the next generation, not just patching up the last one.
It feels like everyone is placing these huge bets on where the tech is going to be in 20 years.
You have to. Defense contracts are such long-term plays. If you miss a procurement cycle, you could be out of that business for a decade or more.
And speaking of bets, there's a kind of turf war brewing in Mirabel with L3 Harris, right? The reports made this sound pretty intense.
Oh, absolutely. This is all about the new F-35s. So Canada is buying a fleet of F-35 stealth fighters. The planes themselves are made by Lockheed Martin in the U.S., but they need to be maintained. They need ongoing technical support.
And L3 Harris wants that contract.
Desperately. They're lobbying like crazy to get a piece of that F-35 maintenance pie. The goal is to make Mirabel the technical support hub for these fighters.
Help me understand this. Why is maintenance so valuable? It sounds like, changing the oil. Why is there a turf war over it?
Because on an F-35, maintenance is much closer to brain surgery than an oil change. You're dealing with special stealth coatings that need to be applied in climate-controlled rooms. You're dealing with highly classified avionics.
So it's a huge barrier to entry.
Exactly. If L3 Harris gets that contract, they create this pool of expertise that is incredibly rare and valuable. It anchors your business for decades. Once you have the certified people and the security clearances, the government can't just switch vendors. It's what we call sticky revenue.
So let's step back and just look at the whole thing. We started with Bombardier moving house in Dorval, a shiny, new, green factory. But then we peel back the layers and we find this massive defense ecosystem with CAE, Rheinmetall, Bell, L3 Harris, all making huge plays.
That's the synthesis. It's a dual narrative. On the surface, you have a physical consolidation Bombardier making a modern, efficient footprint. But just underneath, you have this huge economic expansion into high-tech defense.
It's like the whole region is hedging its bets.
That's a perfect way to put it. The civil aviation market, it's cyclical. It goes up and down with the global economy. People buy fewer private jets when there's a recession. But defense contracts, they're long-term, they're stable, and they're backed by government budgets.
So if one side of the business dips, the other holds the line.
Exactly. By balancing between luxury travel and national security, the local economy becomes so much more resilient. And for the developers back in Saint-Laurent, the game of musical chairs is just starting as they figure out what to do with all that land. But for the workers, it means the job market is evolving.
That's a really key point. You're not just an aerospace engineer anymore.
No, you might be a simulation expert for the Air Force one year, and then a stealth coating technician the next, and then a luxury interior designer for a business jet the year after. The whole ecosystem is getting deeper, more complex.
It really redefines what it means to work in tech in Montreal.
It does. And that leads me to this question I've been kind of mulling over while going through all this.
What's that?
As Montreal cements itself as this dual-purpose aerospace capital, does this shift actually change the identity of the city's tech sector? We've always prided ourselves on, commercial innovation, on civil aviation, on connecting the world. But as we become this crucial node in the global defense infrastructure building spy planes, maintaining stealth fighters, does that change the DNA of the ecosystem?
That is a heavy question. Are we moving from a city of transport to a city of defense?
The landscape is shifting, both literally with the dirt moving in Dorval and figuratively in the boardrooms.
Well, from concrete foundations to combat readiness, Montreal is definitely in the middle of a major transformation. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. A $500 million move and a strategy that secures the skies for decades. Thanks for listening.